Mam tells us this house used to be a shop that Layman Griffin's mother sold groceries through the little window, and that's how she was able to send Layman away to Rockwell College so that he could wind up as an officer in the Royal Navy. Oh, he was indeed. An officer in the Royal Navy, and here's a picture of him with other officers all having dinner with the famous American film star, Jean Harlow. He was never the same after he met Jean Harlow. He fell madly in love with her, but what was the use? She was Jean Harlow, and he was nothing but an officer in the Royal Navy, and it drove him to drink, and they threw him out of the Navy. Now look at him, a common labourer for the Electricity Supply Board, and a house that's a disgrace. You'd look at this house and never know there was a human being living in it. You can see Layman never moved a thing since his mother died, and now we have to clean up so we can live in this place. There are boxes packed with bottles of purple hair oil. While Mam is out in the lavatory, we open a bottle and smear it on our heads. Malachy says the smell is gorgeous, but when Mam comes back, she says, "What's a horrible stink?" and wants to know why our heads are suddenly greasy. She makes us stick our heads under the tap outside and dry ourselves with an old towel pulled out from a pile of magazines called the Illustrated London News. So old, they have pictures of Queen Victoria and Prince Edward waving. There are bars of Pear's soap and a thick book called Pear's Encyclopedia, which keeps me up day and night because it tells you everything about everything, and that's all I want to know. There are bottles of Sloane's liniment, which Mam says will come in handy when we get cramps and pains from the damp. The bottles say, "Here's the pain, where's the Sloanes?" There are boxes of safety pins and bags packed with women's hats that crumble when you touch them. There are bags with corsets, garters, women's high-button shoes and different laxatives that promise glowing cheeks, bright eyes and a curl in your hair. There are letters from General Ian O'Duffy to Gerard Griffin, Esquire, saying, "Welcome to the ranks of the National Front, the Irish blue shirts." That it is a privilege to know a man like Gerard Griffin is interested in the movement with his excellent education, his Royal Navy training, his reputation as a great rugby player on the young Munster team that won the national championship, the Bateman Cup. General O'Duffy is forming an Irish brigade that will soon sail off to Spain to fight with that great Catholic Generalissimo Franco himself, and Mr. Griffin would be a powerful addition to the brigade. Mam says Layman's mother wouldn't let him go. She didn't spend all those years slaving away in a little shop to send him to college so he could go gallivanting off to Spain for Franco. So he stayed at home and got a job digging holes for the poles of the Electricity Supply Board along the country roads, and his mother was happy to have him home to herself every night. But Friday, when he drank his pint and moaned over Jean Harlow. Mam is happy. We'll have loads of paper for lighting a fire, though the wood we burn from that collapsing shed leaves a sickening smell, and she worries the white maggots will escape and breed. We work all day moving boxes and bags to the shed outside. Mam opens all the windows to air the house and let out the smell of the hair oil and the years of no air. She says it's a relief to be able to see the floor again, and now we can sit down and have a nice cup of tea in peace, ease and comfort. And won't it be lovely when the warm weather comes and we might be able to have a garden and sit outside with our tea the way the English do. Layman Griffin comes home at 6 every night but Friday, has his tea and goes to bed till next morning. Saturdays he goes to bed at 1 in the afternoon and stays there till Monday morning. He pulls the kitchen table over to the wall under the loft, climbs up on a chair, pulls the chair up on a table, climbs up on the chair again, catches the leg of the bed and pulls himself up. If he's too drunk on Fridays, he makes me climb up for his pillow and blankets and sleeps on the kitchen floor by the fire, or falls into bed with me and my brothers and snores and farts all night. When we first moved in, he complained over how he gave up his room downstairs for the loft, and he's worn out climbing up and down to go to the lavatory in the backyard. He calls down, "Bring the table, the chair, I'm coming down," and we have to clear off the table and pull it to the wall. He's fed up, he's finished with the climbing, he's going to use his mother's lovely chamber pot. He lies in bed all day, reading books from the library, smoking Goldflake cigarettes and throwing Mam a few shillings to send one of us to the shop so he can have scones with his tea or a nice bit of ham and sliced tomato. Then he calls to Mam, "Angelo, this chamber pot is full." She drags a chair, climbs the table to climb for the chamber pot, empty it in the lavatory outside, rinse it and climb back to the loft. Her face gets tight and she says, "Is there anything else your lordship would like today?" He laughs, "Women's work, Angela, women's work and free rent." Layman throws down his library card from the loft and tells me to get him 2 books, one on angling, one on gardening. He writes a note to the librarian to say his legs are killing him from digging holes for the electricity supply board, and from now on Frank McCourt will be getting his books. He knows the boy is only 13, going on 14, and he knows the rules are strict about allowing children into the adult part of the library, but the boy will wash his hands and behave himself and do what he's told. Thank you. The librarian reads the note and says, "'Tis an awful pity about Mr. Griffin. He's a true gentleman and a man of great learning. You wouldn't believe the books he reads, sometimes 4 in a week, that one day he took home a book in French, if you don't mind, on a history of the rudder. The rudder, if you don't mind. She'd give anything for a look inside his head, for it must be packed with all sorts of learning. Packed, if you don't mind." She picks out a gorgeous book with coloured pictures about English gardens. She says, "I know what he likes in the fishing department," and chooses a book called In Search of the Irish Salmon by Brigadier General Hugh Colton. "Oh," says the librarian, "he has read hundreds of books about English officers fishing in Ireland. I've read some myself out of pure curiosity, and you can see why those officers are glad to be in Ireland after all they put up with in India and Africa and other desperate places. At least the people here are polite. We're known for that, the politeness, not running around throwing spears at people." Layman lies in the bed, reads his books, talks down from the laugh about the day his legs will heal, and he'll be out there in the back, planting a garden which will be famous far and wide for colour and beauty. And when he's not gardening, he'll be roaming the rivers around Limerick and bringing home salmon that will make your mouth water. His mother left a recipe for salmon that's a family secret, and if he had the time and his legs weren't killing him, he'd find it someplace in his house. He says, "Now that I'm reliable, I can get a book for myself every week, but don't be bringing home filth." I want to know what filth is, but he won't tell me, so I'll have to find out for myself. Mum says she wants to join the library too, but it's a long walk from Layman's house, 2 miles, and would I mind getting her a book every week? A romance by Charlotte M. Brame or some other nice writer. She doesn't want any books about English officers looking for salmon, or books about people shooting each other. There's enough trouble in the world without reading about people bothering fish and each other. Grandma caught a chill the night we had the trouble in the house in Roden Lane, and the chill turned into pneumonia. They shifted her to the City Home Hospital, and now she's dead. Her oldest son, my Uncle Tom, thought he'd go to England to work like other men in the lanes of Limerick, but his consumption got worse, and he came back to Limerick, and now he's dead. His wife, Galway Jane, followed him, and 4 of their 6 children had to be put into orphanages. The oldest boy, Jerry, ran away and joined the Irish Army, deserted and crossed to the English Army. The oldest girl, Peggy, went to Aunt Aggie and lives in misery. The Irish Army is looking for boys who are musical and would like to train in the Army School of Music. They accept my brother Malachy, and he goes off to Dublin to be a soldier and play the trumpet. Now I have only 2 brothers at home, and Mom says her family is disappearing before her very eyes.